India, a country with a population of 1.4 billion people, is represented by 545 MPs. Back in 1951, a single MP represented 7,34,000 people. But today, a single MP represents nearly 18,34,000 people. Because in 1951, we were a population of only 350 million, but today we have reached a population of 1.4 billion people. So the question here is this a better representation? Is a single MP representing nearly 18 lakh people, is this justified? Well, India's steadily growing population has contributed towards the governance and the political spectrum of this country. Lok Sabha seats earlier were not fixed. They were changed or altered in accordance with the census data that was collected, which meant that those states whose population was significantly high started getting more number of seats in the Lok Sabha compared to those states whose population was low. So this discontent was first time put forward by the MP Murasal Maran. He stated that states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, whose population was more, started getting more representation because they didn't implement the family planning program well. Compare that to the southern states whose population grows steadily as also a result of implementing the family planning program well, and these people got shadowed by states like UP and Bihar. So this could be seen with the above chart, whereby in 1952 the percentage of the MP seats represented by the southern states was 27%. In 1957 it fell to 26%. And again in 1967 it further fell down to 24%. So here Mr. Murasal Maran's word found traction among the other MPs, and as a result delimitation commission was set up. And this delimitation commission recommended that the Lok Sabha seats should be fixed with regard to the 1971 census data, which meant the seats were fixed at 545 MPs. Now the question might arise as to what is a delimitation commission. Delimitation commission is something which determines the constituency of the Lok Sabha. For example, now Karnataka has 28 Lok Sabha seats. Now let's say there might be an uproar in order to increase the Lok Sabha seats for regard to Karnataka, then a delimitation commission will be set up, which would be governed by the highest body. And based on that recommendation, the seats of Karnataka would be increased or decreased. Now, continuing, the Lok Sabha seats were freezed at 1971 census level, being 545 MPs for 30 years. Again, in 1996, FICCI organized a high level meeting where the major people attending were Pranab Mukherjee from Congress, Jaswant Singh from BJP, and Indrajit Gupta, and they decided to extend this defreezing of Lok Sabha seats. And once again in 2001, they decided to freeze the same for another 25 years. This move was done to avoid any democratic decision on the same. Now, this 25 years of freezing of the Lok Sabha seats is coming to an end in 2026. And as a result, once again the same question comes as to whether it is in the good interest to simply raise the Lok Sabha seats. And this topic further found traction due to the newly constructed parliament building, which could house nearly 888 Lok Sabha MPs. Now compare that to developed countries like France, which has a population of 6.7 crore people and has a Lok Sabha seats of 347, and there a single MP represents 1,86,000 people. Now same, compare that to Australia, which has a population of 2.57 crore people and has seats of 151, and they represent nearly 1,70,000 people only. Now India, with a population of 1.4 billion people, having 545 MPs, that as was discussing covers around 18 lakh 34,000 people. So however, theoretically increasing in the MP seats with regard to increasing the population might sound right. So one of the challenges, there might be a demand for increase in the SC/ST reservations. Currently, as scheduled caste and scheduled tribe get nearly 22% of the total MP seats in the country. Now, if there is an increase in the MP seats, there might be a request from these people for a higher representation. And you currently, as you might be aware, reservation is one of a heated topic, whether it should exist or it should be abolished. The second problem being MPs are eligible for 5 crore rupees per annum under the MLPDS schemes for the development of their constituency. From the period 2019 to 22-23, the government had released nearly 95 crore rupees. And if these seats are increased, then there will be new MPs which has new constituency, and these MPs might also demand money for development of this constituency. More number of MPs in the house could also impact or disrupt the functioning of the house. Here is an example.
Our lead story tonight, a never seen before showdown in Parliament. Almost half of the opposition shown the door, and the worsening standoff between the government and the opposition over the Parliament security breach hitting rock bottom. Now, just months before the big battle for 24, the government and the opposition refusing to see eye to eye. More than 90 members have been suspended from both the houses, and this for disrupting proceedings.
So, if increasing the number of MPs is not the answer, then what is? However, one of the methods can be increasing the effectiveness of these MPs. So, how can this be done? This can be done by delegating more work to a parliamentary committee. Now, what is a parliamentary committee? See, what happens, the parliament meets only thrice in a financial year. That is during the budget season, a monsoon season, and in the winter season. In these three meetings, there is no sufficient time left in order to discuss of all the various activities in detail. And these three sessions where the parliament meets is also live telecasted for people to watch. So therefore, there is another forum through which considerable amount of work gets done. These are the parliamentary committee. So parliamentary committees are a small group of MPs from across various parties which come together and discuss things in detail. Now, what happens when there is a live relay happening of the parliamentaries? These MPs from the respective parties need to toe the wordings or the narrative which is given by their political party. But in case of parliamentary meetings, which happens behind the closed doors, these MPs from various political parties are free to discuss in detail, put forth their ideas, and also have a discussion and come to a proper consensus. Standing committees also further discuss the grants demand that has been raised by various ministries, the expenditure that has been allocated to various ministries, the trends, and also discuss on the budget that has been presented. So here, including MPs from various political parties is also a better option which will bring a diversity. But so in case of standing committees, the seats to these political parties are allocated based on their strength in the Lok Sabha. Now there are 24 standing committee, of which the chairman of 9 standing committee is other than BJP, and the rest standing committees chairperson or chairman is from BJP. So if you take an example of a defense committee, here the BJP has nearly 48% of the representation, Shiv Sena has 4%, and Indian National Congress has 11%. So if you put together BJP and Shiv Sena being the ally, they represent nearly 52% of the entire committee. So here also a question has to arises in order to bring much more diversity and give much more representation to these parties so that there is an appropriate questioning of the various policies that has been put forth for discussion in the standing committees. And recommendation of the bills to the standing committee is vital because this allows for much more time for the MPs to go through the bill and the queries and the debates and also ensure that it is for the well-being of the people at large. So if you see the stats compared to the 14th Lok Sabha, 60% of the bills were referred to the committees, and in 15th Lok Sabha 71%, and that gradually fell down in 17th Lok Sabha, whereby only 16% of the bills were recommended. And if you see the meetings which were held to examine the bills, nearly 54% of these bills which was presented were discussed in less than 5 meetings, but in case of only 4% of these bills for which a discussion of nearly 15 meetings were held. So another way through which the effectiveness of these member of parliaments can be increased is through latent entry. Now, what is a latent entry? Latent entry is professionals or experts from various fields who are brought into the bureaucracy, and with their expertise, a better policies and better governance could be brought in. Now, how this will be effective? Let this guy tell you.
Of resistance to lateral entry. You might have seen an ad by Government of India where they have asked for 10 posts that they wanted to fill through lateral entry. And there was so much of halla gulla about it. because bureaucracy that runs the government has been running the government for decades. No one would like a young person from IIT who has done a research in water resource to come and start advising the water resource secretary. That guy might be running, I was just joking with some of your colleagues, the guy was running a health department or transport department. Today he becomes the water secretary and he is supposed to be knowing everything. You as a young researcher might have gone to the best school, you might be knowing the best practices in water resource, but you have no opportunity to go and contribute in how the Chennai's water problem could be solved. The commissioner here who sits here and probably knows not even W of water has come to the department only 5 days back. Before that, he might be running any department. He is the master of everything.
And another option to keep a check is having a strong opposition. Yes, a strong opposition ensures that the current party in power doesn't go into dictatorial mode and passes out any legislature or carries out any rules which has an adverse impact on the functioning of the country or to its people, or brings out any rules or regulation which would give them a better political advantage. And for this, one of the finest example is the existing 2024 election result, whereby the opposition, that is India bloc, got nearly 42.5% of the total seats, which meant that if there is any constitutional amendment which has to be carried out, then it needs a special majority. Well, coming back to the title of this video, whether 545 MPs are sufficient to represent the interest of 1.4 billion people. Well, the answer is yes. Yes, because of people like me and you. You see, the people of this country somewhere know whom to vote and whom not to. And always the mandate which is given by the people shows what's the current sentiment or what is the current view of the people, which always gets brushed up or faded away among the buzz, among the narratives or the optics, and which dims the undercurrent which is existent. And for this, the latest example was the 2024 election, whereby the BJP, the largest political party, who could get the majority on its own in 2014 and 2019, had to settle for 240 seats in the current 2024 elections. Now compare this to the Western country, where the people have a strong political leaning of being into political party A or B and do not want to change irrespective of the current scenarios of being in respect to of war, recessions or economic downhill. The people of this country are never hesitant to topple governments or curtail their powers. In conclusion, it's always quality over quantity. You see, a country like India is very complex to navigate and very difficult to get a grasp of it in one go. Now, these Western countries, they try to fix us in their own template, but we never fit into. Because we have such a wide spectrum of people coming from different religion, caste, creed, exposure, heritage and culture, that we never fit into their very straitjacket template. Now, I personally feel that only a person who was born and brought up in this country can just enjoy or have an idea of this organized chaos. A garden looks very tidy and pretty, but a few days of non-maintenance, it simply dies. In case of a jungle, it looks very chaotic and unorganized, but it got an ecosystem of its own and life throbs in every corner of it. Well, I would say India is such a jungle where this life throbs and this democracy, this politics, its ever-changing landscape is no less than any Netflix thriller if you keep a close eye on this. Let me leave you with a very short video of late Shri Pramod Mahajan describing the democracy of this country in a very funny way. Until then, take care and thank you for watching this video. Namaskaram.
अब अभी इन दिनों में चीन में एक संसदीय यात्रा थी, आपके आशीर्वाद से खलप जी के नेतृत्व में गए। आजकल अध्यक्ष जी चीन में जनतंत्र जानने की बड़ी उत्सुकता बढ़ी है और इसलिए बहुत दिन बदले। पहले तो कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी यहाँ कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी के निमंत्रण पे आती थी, आजकल तो चीनी कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी भारतीय जनता पार्टी के निमंत्रण पर भारत में आकर अभ्यास करना चाहती है, क्योंकि वो भी जानते हैं कि इनमें तो कुछ बचा नहीं है, क्या फायदा इनसे संबंध रख के, जो नई पार्टी आने वाली है उससे ज्यादा संबंध रखते, तो उनका भी आपस का सारा बदला है। अब मैं जब चीन में गया, रमाकांत जी भी थे, चिंतामन पानी रहे थे, बहुत यहाँ के मित्र थे, कुछ राज्यसभा के थे। जब हम वहाँ गए तो कुछ वहाँ के लोगों ने पूछा, भाई आपकी डेमोक्रेसी कैसी चलती है, क्योंकि उन लोगों का तो संसद अलग, इलेक्शन अलग। तो रमाकांत जी थे और बड़े नेता हैं, लेकिन पुरानी मित्रता है, तो उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि जरा बताइए भाई कैसी चलती है, चर्चा करो इनसे। तो एक एमपी ने मुझे पूछा कि हाउ इज योर डेमोक्रेसी। तो मैंने कहा मैं डेमोक्रेसी बताता हूँ, मेरा उदाहरण, मैंने कहा सिर्फ मैं परिचय करवाता हूँ, डेमोक्रेसी समझ लो। मैंने कहा आई एम प्रमोद महाजन, आई एम मेंबर ऑफ लोकसभा, आई बिलोंग टू द सिंगल लार्जेस्ट पार्टी एंड आई एम इन अपोजिशन। चीनी आदमी मेरे को देखते हैं, यू आर सिंगल लार्जेस्ट पार्टी। मैंने कहा वी आर द सिंगल लार्जेस्ट पार्टी इन द हाउस, वी आर इन अपोजिशन। अच्छा, फिर हमने चिंतामन पानी गिरने की ओर हाथ कर दिया। मैंने कहा ये है, वो सामने है, सिंह का असल माफ करना, वो सिंह का सिंह करके तो थोड़ा हो जाता है। अब उनके और हाथ करके कहा ही बिलोंग्स टू द सेकेंड लार्जेस्ट पार्टी, ही इज आउटसाइड द गवर्नमेंट सपोर्टिंग द गवर्नमेंट। फिर एमए बेबी थे, मैंने उनको उठा दिया। मैंने कहा ही इज द थर्ड लार्जेस्ट पार्टी, ही इज इनसाइड द फ्रंट बट आउटसाइड द गवर्नमेंट। और फिर मैंने कहा he is Mr. Ramakant Khalaf, he is the only member of his party and he is the government।